Welcome to OAC Health Talks. I'm Joe Naglowski, OAC's President and CEO, and we're excited for you to join us for this educational video series that dives deeper into specific health topics that we know are important to you and the OAC community. Today's OAC Health Talk tackles another important and timely topic, how to enjoy the holidays and stay on track, featuring health psychologist and registered dietitian, Dr. Nina Crowley. The holidays can be a time of joy as you gather around family and friends, but it can also bring stress and make it tough to stay on track. It's important to know how to keep yourself mentally, emotionally, and physically healthy during the holidays. Dr. Crowley is here today to provide you with some tips and tricks on how to stay on track and check in with yourself during this holiday season. And with that, take it away, Dr. Crowley.
Hi, everybody. I'm Nina Crowley. I'm a registered dietitian and health psychologist in Charleston, South Carolina. And I'm excited to talk to you and to myself, actually, about how to enjoy the holidays and stay on track. Sometimes it's a good reminder to be speaking it, and then maybe I'll do it. So I think it's a great time to sort of check in with this. We're sort of mid-December. You may have gotten through Thanksgiving and already had some tricky times, but we've got a few more weeks, and so I want to talk to you about how to get through that and thinking about that pretty intentionally. So this is a tricky time for my patients and for providers, for all of us, really. There's so many more events and family commitments, and a lot of us are putting other people's needs ahead of our own. I know it's the season of giving, so a lot of us are giving our time and energy to people and places that might not necessarily be in line with our goals. So, I do think when we talk about the holidays, it's important to think about, if it's really just about food or, eating and with each other, then there'd really only be a couple days to worry about, right? The actual holidays. But most people have a shift in our thinking to sort of that holiday mode where your exercise routines are disrupted, your pre-planning kind of falls to the wayside, and you're sort of picking, nibbling, maybe overindulging, that kind of picks up. So I'm hoping that instead of a hyper focus on food and eating, I know from the dietitian, you thought I was going to tell you exactly what to do, right? I'm much more of a behavioral focused dietitian where I want to think about, intentionally about this season. So about your fears, your stress, your worry surrounding the holidays. I also really recommend if you have a team, a healthcare team, a trusted healthcare professional, it's probably a good time to make an appointment with them if they have availability. If you don't have one, the OAC actually has a really good provider tool for you to start because some people need more individualized advice. I mean, although the internet has lots of great tips and tricks and all of us are there consuming that all the time, it's actually hard to put that stuff into practice, and your healthcare provider can be really helpful with that. So today I'm going to kind of focus on some behavioral nutrition tips to keep you on track with your long-term goals through the holidays, and focusing on your nutrition, your physical activity, and stress and kind of family and social dynamics. So we're really going to focus on the reason for the season, which is spending time together, being thankful for our friends and family, and for good health. So really checking in with what's important to you and reasons why you're pursuing a healthier lifestyle to begin with. So above all else, I do want to say we really want to kind of get into that gratitude and kind mindset. For many of us, perfectionism is a pretty big problem, and you're not going to be perfect. That's not something to strive for, but we do want to focus on our goals and how we're going to meet them, but build in some time for some spontaneous stuff and things you want to enjoy, while also having a plan and really how you're going to reconnect and maybe readjust in the new year. So let's get into some nutrition tips. I really think at the holidays, it's about finding the balance. So for some patients or some people, food journaling or tracking, in some way, shape, or form is something that works for you. So if this is something that's your jam, keep that up. Don't stray from what's working. I always sort of check back into a quote about whatever it takes to lose weight, you'll have to always do, or whatever it takes to meet your goals, you'll have to always do. I think that's really important because a lot of times we think we're going to do an effort, get to our goal, and then go back to where we were before and reap the benefits of getting to that goal. Hopefully I'm not the first one to tell you that that's not how it works, but that's how it works with some things like, keeping track of your intake. So if that's your thing, definitely stick with that. But it also might not be your thing. It's not my thing. And so to start something new and aggressive during a time where you're going to be stressed and busy, that's also not a great idea. So if you have a system, stick with it. Also, if you're like a weekend warrior, like I am, you don't really need to measure or track your information or your intake during the week, because that's pretty regimented and structured. But you might be one where the weekend comes and like all bets are off. You kind of have to rein it in a little bit. That might be the time, to measure or track your intake, or at the places where you think you might be more high risk. So stick with your system that's working. If you don't have a system that's working, you don't want to necessarily take on a huge aggressive goal during this time. Another good tip is to have a little bit of a mantra. You can tell I'm big into kind of these short little mantras, and a lot of them have come through patients through the years. So the one I think at the holidays is it special? So it's kind of a quick thing you can ask yourself when you're considering different options at your holiday gatherings. There's so much food that's really just kind of there. It's filler for a party. I think of like little cubes of cheese and crackers. That kind of stuff is available all the time. I mean, that might be your favorite, or chips and dips. That kind of stuff is just there to fill out the table, right? They're not really holiday themed. So I recommend sort of saving your space to savor the things that only come around once a year and that are either tasty, nostalgic, memorable, or special. So for me, it's kind of anything pumpkin related, that brie puff pastry that really kind of only comes out around the holidays. That's what I'm saving my space for. And I'll, push some of the other stuff that I can have anytime to the side. A lot of people also have guilt if they miss an item, like they're trying to restrict, they're trying to stick to a plan, and then they'll have guilt or feelings, emotions about not having that thing. And other people have the thing and feel guilt with that. So if you're someone who kind of tends to those emotions, that's another kind of indication to get back or get in touch with a healthcare provider to really help you figure out a good strategy for that. So save your space for what's special. And then the last one in the nutrition category would be don't run on empty. Our brains really trick us into thinking that, hey, I have a big party later. I know there's going to be a lot of food there. I really love, all of those things there, and it's all special. So I'm going to just kind of eat nothing all day or really go light so that I can really have what I want later. Because, your brains sort of want you to think 1 + 1 = 2. But what we know, and you probably know if you're being honest, is that if you go all day without eating, are going to show up there hungry, starving maybe, and really not be critical about what you have to eat there. So have your usual breakfast and lunch. Really be thinking about what you're going to have there, stick to your plan, but then enjoy the good stuff that's there, and fill up some high fiber veggies, get some protein to fill you up, have a taste of your favorite dessert, and then kind of move on to the more maybe social or connectedness parts of the event. So those are probably my most important nutrition tips. As far as physical activity goes, I think the biggest thing we can do around the holidays is plan. So planning for me looks like getting out my Outlook calendar, which I'm, a stickler for, and putting in time for things. So not just my work stuff and meetings and things like that, but really, where am I going to get in workouts? Where am I going to get in some walking? And a lot of people need downtime, and people forget that around the holidays when there's, an event every single night. So put in your stuff to get your activity, whether it's just relaxing, stretching, yoga, walking, even classes. I've been trying to shift away, not just around the holidays, but around planning events around like happy hours where there's, food and drink, because for me, I really am looking for just connection with my friends. If you can't tell, I'm a huge extrovert. I need a lot of that. And so I've been planning events around, walking on the beach, going to a spin class, trying to get into a more kind of movement focused connection period, and then hanging out afterwards. And it's just not the norm for me, but it's been very rewarding because it's much more fun to sort of do that and then have kind of that, good feeling going into connecting with your friends. So plan your workouts around the holidays. There's usually a lot of specials around, kind of like free weeks here and there. So you could even try some new things. I find doing that together with someone else is also more fun than showing up at a class for the first time by yourself. Another kind of exercise thing is dancing. I think around the holidays, there's lots of opportunity for events and dancing. So even just turning up your holiday music and dancing around your kitchen, where I'm sitting right now is my daughter and my dance stage. So we love jacking up the music and dancing around, even while you're just sort of doing chores. So at a party, the benefit is that you're dancing and moving, your hands are busy. So sometimes we're just like, we don't know what to do with our hands. So we're picking or we're having a drink, and I'll use that cue to enjoy some coffee. But when you're dancing, you're not doing that. So it's kind of a double. You're, away from some of the more tempting stuff and you're getting some movement. Another sort of holiday time thing is shopping, right? So that's time where you can get a lot of movement, walking between the stores, getting some extra walking. So I would say, maybe challenge yourself that you're getting more steps than how many dollars you're spending. That's probably a good tip all around, but, use that time to get some extra movement and, either alone or with some of your people. And then just kind of traditions in general. We think about a lot of times when it comes to health, we're talking about food, and the traditions really are about anything. So, a time to be with other people, a time to be with family or friends. So things like caroling or ice skating, family walks, crafting, that's a big one for me. Really just use the time, you're mid-December, check in and think about how things are going so far and how you want them to go. And think about maybe starting a new tradition that isn't around a certain type of recipe or food, and that's something that you might be able to continue. So then stress, right? I wanted to talk about stress because this is a big one. I think, again, as you're planning your month, you're planning some movement, you're really want to be sure to plan that downtime and some me time, some self-care time, whatever that looks like for you. It's really, although, everybody does it, it's really not the time to overextend yourself so much that you don't even enjoy the season. We all know that when you're stressed, you're reactive to what's going on around you. And a lot of people have family kind of drama, and you want to be your best when you're with your family because you've looked forward to that. So you really want to be thinking about, how are you going to plan within that time to get some time for yourself to do whatever that is to recharge. Especially for my introvert friends, that's really important to get that stuff planned into the week. And that way, when someone says, hey, I've got this, party cookie exchange or whatever going on, you've already got a meeting on your calendar. You've already got plans. And even you don't have to share what those are. If your plan is, I just need to sit, check out, and watch a Christmas movie, that is part of your stress plan. So earlier this week, I listened to a Brene Brown podcast, which is my favorite. I recommend it for everybody. But she had the author of Atomic Habits. His name is James Clear, and he was on. And this quote that he said has really kind of resonated with me. It was, behaviors are like casting votes for the story we want to tell ourselves. So what the things that we do are part of who we're going to become is how I think about it. He recommends, as we think about our goals, not just outcomes. In this realm, we hear people say all the time, oh, I want to lose X amount of weight. But he recommends thinking of it more like, what are the behaviors of the person I want to be, or the type of person I want to be? So in his example was, instead of I want to lose X amount of weight or fit in this size clothing, it's more like I want to be the type of person who consistently exercises or plans meals or whatever, kind of a healthy person in your mind would be. And that's a much better mantra or a metric for you to sort of recall when it comes time to make a decision. So, this morning, what does a healthy person do when they oversleep their alarm? They get up and go late to their class that they signed up and paid for. So I did that rather than, if you don't have that kind of a decision making, it's easy to just sort of fall into not doing that. So I like that. I think that can really sort of help. I really do like the idea of thinking about behavior changes that you want and kind of restructuring your environment so that you're able to meet them. Because it doesn't come easy on a good day. So it's certainly not going to come easy on a day that you're stressed and busy and have so many other things going on. I also want to talk a little bit about family and social situations. So there can be a lot of sabotage that goes around, especially when you're someone who's committing to working on healthy behaviors. So I would say 'tis the season to set some boundaries. You know that the certain people in your family or in your friend group who are your triggers, right? So again, ahead of time, think about how you're going to address them. I think people always say like, oh, you've got the uncle that always says this, or, that person who's always like, come on, eat this. And if, you're someone who is limiting what you're eating or making some conscious decisions not to have certain foods, I think a mantra around what you're going to say when the person does the thing that they're going to do, really being honest with that. Don't just go into it with hopes and dreams like, oh, well, this year, maybe they won't do that. Or this year, I'm going to be strong enough to just say no. I mean, you know how it's going to go. So one that a patient shared with me that I really like is that's not my thing anymore. Because that sort of puts it to like, you're making that decision. Some people talk about can't and won't, like, oh no, I can't eat that. My post-bariatric patients would say the first month, I have a lot of patients having surgery right around the holidays, and they're like, it actually was easier because I would say, I can't eat that because I'm on a pureed diet. And so that works, right? When that's the case, but can't implies it's someone else telling you that you can't, and won't is much more, I think, part of your values and you saying like, I'm not going to do that because I don't want to. So like back off. So whatever kind of feels right for you, but thinking about it ahead and having something that you can just say, it'll roll off your tongue. You won't have to worry about it. There's no kind of emotion about it. It's just, that's not my thing anymore. Something like that. And people do get kind of weird or defensive, even prickly when you sort of set a boundary and stick to it. But that really isn't, your issue. It's their issue around food and eating, if that's the case. So you know that you don't want to be pressured. You know that you want to stick to whatever that is. So it's, it's kind of on you to define that boundary, sort of finesse the way that you're going to say that. And again, the James Clear from the Atomic Habits is sticking in my head. He said, current habits are perfectly designed to deliver your current results. So what you're doing now is what you're going to get now, right? And most of us are trying to be better or do more or sort of meet a goal. And so setting a boundary around something like this with family might be a way to do that. So, and kind of the last thing to talk about is sort of how to get back on track if you deviate, right? Again, just being honest with yourself. You're not going to be perfect. That's not what we're striving for. We're striving for kind of a balance of meeting your goals, having some fun, being spontaneous, right? So I really think the best advice is to sort of pick your poison. Think about it critically ahead of time. Take an honest look at your triggers, your, either your eating or movement or stress or people, whatever those are. Everyone's going to have different issues. So kind of think about what does good enough look like for you at the end of the season? What does doing great look like? And then, what if all of that goes to the wayside and it's a real, terrible kind of time during the holidays? What does that look like, and how do you get back on track? I think we'll probably be talking a lot about, New Year's kind of stuff, but regardless of the time of year, after you've had a lapse or a relapse or some sort of period where you're not doing what you wanted to do, you've really got to sort of, again, check back in, be honest with yourself, and have a plan. So if you know that, you've got so much going on, you're going to not be able to do your exercise routine, that wasn't able to happen, maybe starting in the new year, you're going to have something more structured for you, that you feel committed to. Maybe it's, something like meal replacements, that are delivered to you. Maybe that's a gift you give yourself. Maybe even using your holiday time or your holiday gifts from people to be things that that will kind of help you meet your health goals in the new year. And again, if you didn't connect with your healthcare team, or if you did, know that ahead of time and get on their schedule for the new year so that they can help, work with you to facilitate a new pattern, or getting back to the pattern that was working before you had kind of a lapse. So lots of stuff going on this month. I really do hope that you can enjoy all of the traditions and the family and the fun, and not focus too much or get too hyper focused on the food, the eating, and all of that. But I do hope that you're able to stay on track with the goals that you set for yourself, and make it happy and healthy into that new year. So thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Crowley, for providing us with such helpful information as we navigate the holiday season. I'll definitely put some of these great tips to use personally, but we hope each of you were able to take away a variety of tools to help you maintain your health during the holidays. The OAC has a variety of educational opportunities for you throughout the year, but one of the best places you can turn to for quality, unbiased education is our resource library. Simply visit obesityaction.org/library and check out our brochures, articles, guides, videos, and more health talks. Also, be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel to get notified of any future educational events and broadcasts. Thank you for joining us.